So today we're going to learn about lists in Python. So lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. So to make a list, all we have to do is just type the variable, for example, items. This is going to be the name of our list and makes it equals to square brackets. And inside those square brackets, all I have to do is just type our items. For example, our type cars, planes, and as you can see here, we have two strings. But it's not only strings. We can add numbers or integers like 1, 2, 3. We can also add booleans like true, false. And I will add a list inside this list. For example, A, B, and C. Now, to see this list, all we have to do is just print items. And if I run this, we can see that we get our list here. So here, if we want to know how many items we have inside this list, all we have to do is just use this function, which is len. And this function returns the number of items inside a container. In this case, our container is items. And since this function will return a value, I will assign it to a variable, which is length. And I will print it to see how many items we have inside this list. Length. Now, if I print it, you can see that we have 8 items inside this list. Another useful function that we can use, and we can use it with any data type, which is type. And this function will return the type of any object that we put inside those parentheses. For example, if we want to know the type of items, and I will assign it to a variable, I will call it t, and I'll print this variable t, and we can see that we get a class list. That means that the data type of this item is a list. Now I will delete these lines. So if we want to get a specific item inside this list, all we have to do is just type items and open a square brackets and type its index. So for example, if I want to get the car or cars, all I have to do is just type its index, which is 0. And if I print this, and run it, we can see that we get cars. And if I type 1, and then we get planes. So when you start counting the indexes of parts or items inside this list, you have to start from the left and start counting from 0. So cars gets the index of 0, planes gets the index of 1, this number 1 gets the index of 3, and this goes on until we get the index of 7, which is this list. So if I type 7, then we will get this list. So to get the first item on this list, you have to type just 0, as we saw earlier. So we get cars, but if we want to get the last item on this list, all we have to do is just type -1. and this will start from the right, and it will get the first item from here, which is this list. If I run this, we can see that we get this list. But if I type -2, then we will start from the right, and we will go to the next item in this list. And if I run this, we can see we get false, which is this Boolean. Now we will learn about list slicing. So list slicing is the action of taking some part of original list and you extract from it a small part. So for example, if I want to extract a small list, and I will name this list I and makes it equals to items, and we want to type square brackets, and we will specify where we want to start slicing this items list. So I'll start from the index of 0 and then type colon and then where I want to end slicing this items list. So I want to end this slicing at the index of 7. Now if I print I to see what we will get, we get this small list or smaller list. So it starts from here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. And this is the 7th item on this list, but it's not included, this list. Now, the last index will not be included, but the items before it will be included. So, and for example, if we want to make sure what's the 7th item on this list, I will type items and the index of 7 to see what's the 7th part of this list. Then we get this list ABC, and it's not included, as I said, in this extracted list. So you have to keep in mind when you do slicing, then I'll go back. Then the last item here that you specify its index will not be included. It will be excluded. Now the other option that we have is steps. So how many steps I want to escape? For example, if I want to escape one item on this list at a time, all I have to type is 2 or number 2. That means I'll escape one and the other will be included. So if I run this, you can see that get this list, and as I said, we will start from here. Cars gets the index of 0, then planes will be escaped, and then we will include 1 as it says here, and then we will start from 3, and we will escape true, and then we will get false. If you want to escape just one item, so you have to type 2 steps. And if you want to escape 2 items, you have to type 3 steps. And if I run this, we can see that we have escaped 2 items. So I will type it here to see it clearly. Then if I want to escape 1 item, all I have to do is just type 2 steps. If I want to escape 3 items, all I have to do is just type, if I want to escape 2 items, I have to type 3. So this is how to specify your steps. I will delete this. Now I will delete this since we don't need it. Now we will learn how to iterate through this list. So to iterate through any list, all you have to do is just use for loop. So here I'm going to type for item n items, then this colon, and here we will perform some logic. So here I'm saying that in every for every item in this list, for example, I want to just print this item, see what it is. So if I run this, we can see that we get all the items. And let's perform here some logic. For example, if I want to get on the string data type items, I can do that. All I have to do is just use if condition. So if I type if, and you remember our function type that will give us the type of any item or object, and I'll type item, and if this type equals str, which is string, then I want you to print this item. So this logic, which is printing this item, will only happen if just the item types equal the item's type equals string data type. So if I run this, we can see that we get only cars and planes, which are string type. For example, if I want to get the integer data type in this list, all I have to do is just type int, and if I run this, we can see that we only get the numbers or the integers inside this list. If I want to get only booleans, I have to do just type bool, and if I run this, we get true and false. If I want to get the lists inside this item, all I have to type just list, and if I run this, we can see that we only get the list data type, which is this list EBC. Now I will delete this since we don't need it, and I will clear the terminal. Now we will learn about list methods in Python. So to call a list method, all you have to do is just type your list and then dot. Now we can see this drop-down list containing all the list methods in Python. The first method I will start with is append. What it does, it will append an object to the end of this list. For example, if I want to append cats to this list, and if I want to see the changes to our items list, then I'll print it. Now we can see that cats was added at the end of this items list. Now the next method we have is clear, and it doesn't take any arguments. And what it does, it will delete all the items inside this items list. So if I run this, we can see that we get an empty list. The next method we have is copy. And if I hover on it, it returns a shadow, a copy of the list. So I will assign this to a variable, we'll call it copied list. And I will print this copied list. And if I run this, we can see that we get the same list as items. And this is useful when you are doing some, if you are iterating through, let's say, this items list, and you want to make some changes to this items list while iterating through. So it's the best way to do it is to make another list, which is a copy of this list. For example, if I want to iterate over this list, and let's say for item in items or in copied list. And if I want to just, let's say, items dot append, not pop append, let's say item. And if I want to see the changes, all I have to do just type items. So now we are changing this copied list, and not changing, we are iterating through this copied list, and we are changing the items list. So if I run this, we can see that we have added another list to our existed items list, but without iterating through the items list. That will, cause some problems, because if I iterate through items and if I run this, you can see that the PC has stuck, since it's iterating through this items, and since it's being changed while iterating, so it may cause problems. So I will just press Ctrl and C to exit, and I will clear the terminal. I'll delete this since we don't need it. And the next method we have is count. Delete this too. Items.count. And what it does, it will return number of occurrences of add value. So, for example, if I want to know the occurrences of cars inside this list, and since it will return something, I will, let's say, number, and I will type here number. Now we will know how many times cars is mentioned in this list. If I run this, we can see that car exists one time in this list, or occurred just one time. Now if I want to, for example, know how many times number 1 occurred in this list, if I run this, we can see it occurred 2 times. While here, if we can see this items list, then we can see just number 1 occurred here just one time. So what's happening is that Python considered true as 1, false as 0. So if I, for example, delete true and run this again, now we can see that we have number 1, which means this number 1 occurred just one time in this list. Now I will undo this change, and I will, for example, I want to know how many times 0 occurred in this list. And if I run this, we can see that 0 occurred one time. And this is because false is considered as 0. But if I delete it and run this again, we can see that there are no occurrences of this number 0. I'll delete this, and I will undo this and delete this method. The next method we have is extend, and what it does, it will extend list by appending element from the iterable. For example, if I make another list, I'll call it numbers, delete this, and this list have numbers inside it. Let's say 5, 6, 7, and I'll type here items, avoid the error. Now if I want to add this numbers list to our items list, all I have to do is just type here numbers, the extend parentheses, and if I run this, we can see that numbers was added at the end of this items list. So this is one way. You can just you know type it directly this list inside this extend method, and you get the same result. There's another way of adding lists. So if you want to add a list to another list, all you have to do just also I have to uncomment this, and I have to do something like equation, and I will make another new variable which is items, and I'll print items plus numbers, and we can see if I run this, we can see that we get the same result. Now what's happening here is that I'm adding numbers to the items list, and I will assign this result to this items. Now I'm doing here overriding for this items variable, meaning I'm changing it. And as I said, we get the same result as extend here. There's another way to do it. Also, we have items plus equals numbers, and first I have to comment this, and if I run this, we can see that we get the same result. Now this way is a shorter way of doing this line. So if you see it, so now you know. I'll comment this. And the next method we have is index, and I'll type items.index. What it does, it returns the first index of a value. So since it will return something, I will assign to a variable, I will call it index. And here I will type the value that I want to search for. For example, I want to search for the index of cars, and here I will type index. Now if I run this, we can see that cars has the index of 0. Let's say I want to get the index of plane, and if I run this, we can see that we get an error. Since plane is not included in this list, so we get this error. As it says here, tries as a value error if a value is not present. But we have to type planes, which included in this list. And if we run this, we can see that we get number 1. That means planes has the index of 1. The next method we have is insert. I'll delete this. And if I hover on it, we can see it inserts object before index. For example, if I want to insert, let's say, cats, and I want to insert it in the to be the first item in this list. All I have to do just type the index and then the value that I want to include in this list. Now if I run this, we can say we get none, since this method returns nothing. But if I want to see the changes, all I have to do is just type items. Now if I run this again, we can see that cats was added at the end, or sorry, at the beginning of this items list. Let's say I want to add it at the to be the second item on this list. Now we can see that cats was added here to be the second item of this list, which is items. Now the next method I'll talk about is pop. What it does, it removes and return item at index. And here the index supports index, which has the default value, which is -1. So since this will return something, let's say I'll call it a variable I, and I'll type it here. Now, if I just run this and see what is this variable I, we get the last item here. So if I call this pop method and if I don't mention any, index here, then it will remove the last item on this list, which has the default value of -1. But on this, we can see that we get the same result. Now, for example, if I want to remove cars, and if I run this, we can see that we have an error because, of course, we don't specify here the value, we specify here the index. So if I run this, we can see that we get cars. So as you see here, this method will, take out cars and assign it to a variable. The next method we have is remove. If I hover on it, it will remove the first occurrences of a value. And we can see that it returns nothing. And it will raise a value error of the if the value is not present. So since it will return nothing, I will just delete this and type our items list again. And here I have to specify the value, for example, cars. Now if I run this again, we can see that cars is not included in this list. So the next method we have, or the last method we have, is reverse. And if I hover on it, we don't get a definition for it, but it returns none. And it doesn't accept any argument. So what it does, it will reverse the order of our items list. So if I run this, we can see that the order of our list was changed, and it was reversed as the name implies here. So this is the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.